Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the DD Geopolitics live stream. I am your host, Sarah, and this is a big start to a big week with the man, the myth, the legend, somebody who needs no introduction, Andrei Martyanov, good friend of the show. How are you this morning?
Still alive, thank you.
Live. So let's get right into it since we're just a tiny bit pressed for time. We're going to start off with the obvious, this Sevastopol beach attack. So we'll just watch a quick edit to refresh everybody's memory.
Так, вон, ранее только что был прилет, только что вон, бегут раненых несут. Люди пострадали. Вот их складывают, сейчас будут увозить. Это Севастополь, Киев.
So I want to get like all of your thoughts on the entire evolution. So we have a ATACMS that magically transformed from an American ATACMS into a Ukrainian ATACMS when it hit the beach. So now it's in a Ukrainian ATACMS. Some people said cluster munitions were on board. And what is the update to the whole situation after all the speculation has kind of died down?
Well, it was a cluster munition version. I don't remember MIM, MIM, rather, whatever the version, 39A, I believe, whatever the hell the name of this thingy. Yeah, it's cluster munition. And most likely there were 5 of them launched from the area of Nikolaev. And most likely the intended target was Baalbek airfield, which houses part of the aviation of the Black Sea Fleet. So 4 missiles have been kinetically destroyed, and the 5th one, we don't know exactly what happened. It never reached Baalbek, and some people say that its electronic warfare was, I don't know how it's going to really affect it electronically, because it is primarily inertial navigation and GPS updates. So obviously GPS is jammed, we can imagine that, but the point is that it's still dispersed part of its package. I don't know how many of them, they say 300, whatever they dispersed, created a killing field essentially at Ochkuyevka, which is on the approaches to Baalbek, if you look at strictly from the west. So yeah, civilians died, children, we know now what, 6 people and 151 wounded. So yeah, that's modus operandi of NATO. It's modus operandi of the U.S. Armed Forces. So it is also the part of the desperation on part of Washington primarily. So what can I say? I mean, as per the NATO chief, who kind of the manager of the transition of the ATACMS from American weapon system to whatever Ukrainian one. Obviously, we understand that no Ukrainian military was allowed and ever allowed near American equipment of the high end, be that M270 trucks, and maybe they drive M270 trucks or tracked vehicle, but in terms of the what is called tie-in, topographic tie-in, you need, because ATACMS is a rather primitive ballistic missile, and you need to have an extremely accurate initial position in order to launch, because it's a ballistic missile, although it's so what can I say? I mean, yeah, it was actually, all this flight plan was entered naturally by the American service people.
Right.
So it's on their, so to speak, consciousness, if they have any, which at this point I doubt it. So, but they better start, changing their appearances. There are a number of the good, plastic surgeons around, because they will be hunted down. And I mean it literally. So if these guys think that this thing doesn't have consequences, they are really wrong. But then again, they are merely, executioners. Of course, the people who give their, so to speak, wave off or give their permission for that are in Washington. And yeah, that's pretty much everything what anybody needs to know.
Right. You alluded to the fact that the positioning was done by the United States, which was clear as I believe it was a global hawk, has been flying over the Black Sea for the last one.
No, global hawk there are merely to what is scan the electromagnetic picture, so to speak. They obviously look for the Russian radar coming up online, so the ATACMS is pretty dumb missile, actually, between me and you. So it's very talked up hugely as pretty much any kind of the American hardware, but it is a typical target for any complex such as Buk M2, let alone M3, and even Panzers. It is well-known documented fact that S-1 Panzer just recently intercepted 6 of them. So even this type of the system does the trick on those things. So, but it was unfortunate situation which happened. In fact, it was tragedy.
Well, you mentioned NATO and there's a culpability and responsibility. NATO is going to transition soon to a new leader, Mark Rutte. He is strongly opposes Russia. He's a much better politician in terms of realpolitik than Stoltenberg, but he really is much more antagonistic towards Russia. What do you think will change when he finally does take over?
Well, nothing. Mark Rutte is a puppet. Washington and Pentagon will tell him to jump, and he will ask how high. So in this particular case, he will continue to do as basically Stoltenberg was doing, is basically spreading BS, fluffy speeches, aggressive rhetoric. But reality is, when you to discount by now whatever is coming in West in terms of statements. So, and look at the, what I do for the last many years, correlation of forces and means, So after that, you say, okay. And Rutte will come out obviously swinging. That's the only thing they can do. And the guy obviously militarily also is a nincompoop, so as most of them are. So, and in this case, well, changing the rhetoric maybe a little bit, but in nature or substance, nothing gonna change much.
And obviously, we have to move on to the attacking Dagestan. But before we talk about the specifics of the event, could you, because a lot of our audience is Western, obviously, could you maybe give them some background on Dagestan in terms of the extremism that has been known in that region? And also, I know that I've heard that there were some tensions between Chechnya and Dagestan, and Ramzan Kadyrov came out with a statement pretty early on, condemning it, saying they're terrorists and that, they will be dealt with. But can you tell us a little bit more background about those relations?
Well, obviously, there is a sort of competition in Caucasus between obviously Chechnya, which is now, shining example of the not only pacification, but people, and there are many Dagestanis and Chechens who fight heroically in special military operations, hero for Russia. Just to give you an example of, Aptial Audinov, and so Chechnya is firmly in Russian camp, and actually, it has to be understood that despite the fact that there are some elements which obviously wouldn't pass the liberal test in the West, Chechnya fought together with what at that time was called federal troops during this, especially second war, against Wahhabi influence. And this is exactly what happened in Dagestan a few days ago. There are Wahhabi cells. Most of them have a connection to all kinds of their, dirty secret services, clandestine services. Some of them originate philosophically and religiously in Saudi Arabia, where Wahhabism is an official religion, for example. And there are many organizations, NGOs of Saudi nature, who support that. Those people financed actually, Mujahideen during Soviet Afghanistan war. There was really not Soviet Afghanistan war. It was Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. So, and then of course you have behind that London, because they are, impotent, chihuahuas. So the only thing they have are basically all kinds of their fingers, together with the CIA, obviously, in the ISIS, for example. ISIS is purely American and British invention, So, and this is all about Wahhabism, and there are many cells. There are many cells. It is all coordinated because this is the only what the combined West today is capable of, which is, of course, terrorism, period. I mean, they cannot fight real war. They never could, actually, you know. So I am talking about the real war with the peer. Forget about it. When you have some enemy like Russia, which is better than peer in so many respects. So yeah, it will continue. It's their normal modus operandi. People who work there, and you can listen to Phil Giraldi, for example, you know, and other people with the CIA background. Phil wrote a number of years ago that he says the CIA doesn't know who spying is anymore. The only thing they do is clandestine operations, and that's about it. And then you're wondering why United States got itself into this mess, you know, because when you have people who do not do real analysis and, you know, real update of the political top, the only thing they do is terrorism, pretty much. You know, they can kill somebody like this operation of assassinating General Soleimani and things of this nature. That's their modus operandi. And again, London is always there. That's the only thing they are capable of doing.
I just want to play a video. It's the president of the Coordination Council of NGOs of Dagestan. His name is Shamil Hudlayev. I think I'm saying that right, or Hadlayev. Close enough. We'll get there. Here it is.
Что касается того, откуда может быть след, безусловно, след может быть из-за границы, из одной из недружественных стран для Российской Федерации. Тем более, что сейчас прошла информация, что запрещенная в России террористическая организация ИГИЛ взяла на себя ответственность за этот теракт в Дагестане, в Махачкале и в Дербенте. Что касается того, что дети участвовали, чиновников, спортсмены в этом, то это серьезнейшая проблема. Безусловно, проблема кадровой политики, потому что как могло так получиться, что глава района, дети, которые вот так заражены таким вирусом терроризма, возглавлял целый район. Мог ли он не знать? Безусловно, он должен был знать, чем занимаются его дети и их взгляды. Если бы вовремя пресекли, этого бы не было. Тем более, что с этого Сергокалинского района из 5, которых ликвидировали преступников, все 5 оказались представителями данного Сергокалинского района. И 4, то есть 2 сыновей и еще 2, они тоже из близкого родственного окружения главы района и его жены. Вот что произошло. Спортсмены, да, то, что в этом участвовали спортсмены.
So we already know the sons were involved of the political official. He keeps mentioning athletes. I think he means MMA fighters. Is that what we're talking
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah. And then, so the reason why I showed that video, even though it was long and kind of boring, is that immediately following the attacks, and I know you're going to hate this, but online in the discourse, people tried to really scoop that story, and they tried to make it so it related directly to the conflict in the Levant in Western Asia. And I was saying, no, you know, Russia has its own issues with extremism, and it has Ukraine right there, and they're very dead set on the idea that somehow Israel is behind this, which I want you to discuss the huge likelihood that it's absolutely not Israel.
No, it's absolutely not Israel. Once you get into the Wahhabism and ISIS, although Israel played a role in creating ISIS, but it is run by, as I already stated, primarily from Washington and London. So it has nothing to do with Israel. I really doubt it. Plus, Israel in such a desperate, pickle right now. The last thing they want to be also exposed, as the supporters of terrorism, which they really are themselves became the terrorist state at this stage. So, but truth is, it's not that. And again, if we remember the Crocus City, Tajiks hired by Ukrainian special services, the SBU and GUR. So and again, this is Caucasus. That was the problem of the fundamentalist Islamization, Wahhabism. It's still there. There are some cells. all kinds of those people go bananas. And then, of course, when you have, like, which is true, the father who ran the district, so his children, so to speak, they had a free hand. And considering the level of corruption, there was a very high corruption always there in the area. So there you go. This is combination of all of those factors. But yes, I agree with the man and of the head of the republic that there is absolutely all signs, all features of the foreign influence then. And yeah, there are cells still are there.
How do you think if there will be retaliation for these attacks specifically, not the attack on Crimea, if there will be retaliation, and will it be localized to Dagestan, or will it be, you think we'll see it in Ukraine?
I don't know about Ukraine, but for sure, FSB now is having a field day, so to speak, and I wouldn't call it good time. It's never a good time, but they have now their necessary ability to clean up pretty much not only the. Although we have to give credit where the credit is due. 13 Dagestani policemen died, trying to defend people and counter this attack. So, but yeah, there is a lot of so to speak, what it called, post-flight, briefings will be held, including to the political top of Dagestan. Who are those people? Why they ended up with that? And yeah, it's a process. It takes a long time to clean it up.
And just really quickly, there was a small skirmish at the border of Abkhazia and Russia. Do you think that the two are related at all, or that was just a completely separated, isolated incident?
Well, possible. I don't know all details. I know one man was killed, and whatever the hell was going there, Abkhazia is a wild place, actually. Yeah, who knows what was there? So possible. As I already stated, the terrorist activity will only increase precisely because the terrorism is the weapon of the weak. United States turned out to be militarily a paper tiger, which actually I warned about. And, the only thing they can do is supply whatever is left in the stocks of the weapons to Ukraine and, conduct terrorist activity. The same goes for London because this is the only thing they do, because militarily they are chihuahuas. They're not even serious, armed forces. So, yeah, they will, kill civilians. That's what they do.
So we're going to move over to the sponsors of terrorism. The United States is moving 2 aircraft carriers into the, I guess we'll call it the axis of resistance, AOR. Most likely the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea would be my guesses. So the Eisenhower has now been relieved of its duties. We still don't know whether it got hit or not, but it still did a 9-month deployment, which is unheard of these days. So that should give you an indication of the severity of the situation. And now it's being relieved by the Roosevelt and the Truman, 2 ships that were, I think, rushed out of dock. And now I have been in the Navy. You've been in the Navy. I haven't seen a situation where 2 carriers deployed to the same AOR since the high level involvement in Syria. What do you think is happening? It really doesn't sit well with me seeing 2 full carrier strike groups going out to that AOR.
Well, one goes to Lebanon, obviously, because we are expecting the conflagration, which is already happening, actually, between Israel and Hezbollah. So United States will be fighting on behalf of Israel. So Israel doesn't have really means to fight real serious war. They have been called, their bluff has been called. I mean, they sustain horrendous casualties. So, and the other one, yeah, they need to pretend at least that they didn't lose the campaign in terms of the what was the freaking name of this, the most preposterous name of operation, something about prosperity, something the prosperity thing.
I'm gonna have to look it up though. Prosperity Guardian.
I mean, it's like who the hell those people are who come up with those titles? I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, they have to move there some of CBG there because at least to sustain some kind of or pretend to sustain some kind of the shipping, despite the fact that the shipping links of communications have been interdicted by Houthis, which is unprecedented achievement for the group which doesn't have navy to speak of. And so the shipping is down by 90%. Can you believe it? I mean, this is what they did. So, and they need to have some kind of presence. They will try to unblock it, but as experience of Eisenhower tells us, it's very difficult, to put it mildly. So, and they will be pushed out, obviously, more towards Indian Ocean for a simple reason that after, who knows what Houthis will get now, you know, they can get something which flies faster and way more precise, and so, and that could end up really badly for the US Navy there. So, but I mean, the other one which goes to Mediterranean, it's going to be flying for Israel, trying to kill Hezbollah.
Right. So, and then we also have Cyprus that was warned about using launch sites for Israel. So instead, we're going to fly out a mobile Air Force base with the carrier. So one in the Med and then one in the Gulf. Is that what we're doing here? Do you think there's going to be a overt provocation of Iran, or is it just the presence?
They go mostly towards the Red Sea. Iran is kind of the Persian Gulf. I mean, if they go to Persian Gulf, who knows? And as I already stated, United States is the extension of Israel's foreign policy. It's not autonomous in making those decisions. And basically, Netanyahu will tell Biden to jump, and he will ask how high. So anybody who spreads those things that Biden somehow has morality or strength to stand, there is Blinken who making those decisions, So could there be Tonkin Gulf 2.0? Oh, certainly, it's never out of the question. How probable it is, I don't know. United States is not in any shape to take on any serious enemy. The only thing United States knows how is to launch their carrier aviation, just launch some standoff weapons. That's about it. They already have some boots on the ground in Israel fighting with IDF, which is not really fighting, mostly killing women and children there. So, but that's about it. It doesn't mean that it cannot escalate. If they go for the false flag, it may. But what will be the end result? I don't think so. Anybody in Pentagon knows. We saw the pattern. These people won't be able to fight out of the wet paper bag. They cannot plan anything. Literally, you just look at the operational level planning, which was destroyed in Ukraine. It's like, are they amateurs? What the hell is wrong with them? Where they studied things? And well, my fourth book is about it, actually. So it's
we should buy them. Your first book.
Fourth.
So what is we have Syria right there, high interest of Russia's little brother in the Levant. What is the likelihood of Russia either supplying them or getting a little bit more involved with the carrier strike group that close to Syria, Lebanon?
Well, it's usually just merely the tracking them, and having the real-time targeting just for the hell of it, who knows what it is. So Russia has Tartus, obviously, where it has the Caliber and Onyx carriers, which in itself is a horrible proposition for any kind of the surface ship. And then, of course, Russia has the Khmeimim Air Base, which has a very serious air component there, including the components such as MiG-31's case, capable of launching Kinzhal's hypersonic weapon. But then again, you can launch Kinzhal from Krasnodar Krai. You just take off, fly, 20 miles of the shore, launch it. The range of Kinzhal itself is 2,000 kilometers. And now, obviously, it is official. Russia is moving surface and submarine assets, all of them carriers of 3M22 Zircon. And when you have that, it doesn't really matter how many carrier battle groups you have. It's just a matter of how many Zircons you have. So. And it's official now. It was confirmed that actually now the Yasin class submarines, such as Kazan, Project 885M, also are carriers of Zircon now, de facto. So, and it's a complex situation, but I don't think so. Russia in any way is interested in defending Lebanon, for example. Syria, yes, it's completely different story. How it will turn out, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to end well for the combined West.
I agree. So still in Gaza, we had the northern Gaza assault, which moved the most of the population to the south, and now we've had a full-on carpet bombing of Rafah with just absolute carnage. And they've recently ordered the IDF to withdraw from Rafah, or like a staged withdrawal. And then, do you think that that's indication that Bibi is getting ready to initiate something bigger with southern Lebanon?
Maybe, but we also know that they classified those losses. We know they're huge for IDF. So these guys thought that, they're so cool, running around with those, whatever the weapon they carry and things of that nature. But no, it's they got mauled. IDF got mauled. Israel is in a horrendous shape economically. So Netanyahu is basically killing Israel. Let's put it this way. And so could they be preparing something? Yeah, sure, absolutely. There are some indications that, something is in the offing, so to speak. But then again, they do not want to fight Hezbollah. IDF alone cannot fight Hezbollah. It's going to be mauled completely. So that is why they need, actually, they call Washington and order White House to send in carrier battle group, because they think that, the carrier cycle, all that, operational tempo, that those F-18s will somehow sustain them, but what will get involved on the side of Hezbollah? Well, let me put it this way. They do have their own air defense. Unlike Hamas, Hezbollah is actual military formation. They do have air defense, for example. They obviously do not do aviation, but they do have air defense. And what kind of air defense, we don't know. But it's not going to be easy even for the United States. And then there is another thing, which is many people have to keep in mind. Syria already, since 2015, already had Yahand, its export version of Onyx P-800 missile. It is obviously was the export version with the range of 300 kilometers. Non-export version, which is P-800, is 800 plus kilometers. Okay, that changes is pretty much immediately, completely. And so, will Russia supply this? I don't know. You remember Putin stated that, hey, now we can certainly provide, weaponry to those people who don't like United States. Because United States provides them, so tit for tat, or two, it takes two to tango, and evidently Russians dropped the gloves on this. So who knows?
Last time we did talk mostly about Palestine, Israel, and we discussed the hypothetical that if Israel really went after Iran and it became a full-scale hot war, that Russia would most likely step in on the side of Iran. Do you still hold on to that? And how far do you think Iran needs to be pushed before Russia will actually step in? And do you think China will step in? And if so, before Russia, or they would wait for Russia?
Iran will need targeting. And Russia has global targeting. It is called Liana. And there's a number of other satellites which provide the targeting on any kind of the surface asset. Including on the land, but on the ocean also, almost in real time. And Iran has means to launch. What Iran has, it has means to launch salvos, not 1, 2 missiles. It can launch 20. Okay, that suddenly changes the whole calculus of the air defense of the carrier battle groups, or for that matter, any type of the, Arleigh class destroyer with Aegis. So it is a complicated situation, but Russia certainly will provide all necessary means for Iran in terms of the targeting and the recon and all things of this nature. Iran has plenty of its own strike means, which actually between us terrify many in the U.S. Navy, so.
Well, it doesn't take much to terrify people in the U.S. Navy. I speak from experience of being in there. So I mentioned China, so we're going to shift over to Asia. Big, huge visit from Putin. So I have to ask you about it. I know it's a little bit old, but I'm still going to do it anyway. Let's see what Ian Sullivan said leading up to it.
Putin is in Pyongyang right now, for example, and so we see them working together more. We see them moving in a series of more transactional relationships, yes, but sort of with the tacit understanding that it's in opposition to the United States. And my concern is that it eventually transitions to something greater than transactional. I don't know if we're ready to say allies. That makes me really uncomfortable, but there's definitely something more than a transactional relationship. Maybe it's somewhere just beyond transactional and almost a partner, which is problematic for us because, again, each of those actors has a significant impact within the region where they're located. But
so what do you think about what he said and the fear that this visit is kind of stoking in the United States and their prediction that North Korea will be giving all kinds of weapons to Russia?
Oh yeah, well, North Korea doesn't really give all kinds of weapons to Russia. It's Russia which actually gives North Korea, and yeah, that's the problem for the United States in this Pacific region because obviously, Koreans already have weapons. Including the knockoffs of the, for example, Russian caliber missile, because it also probably has been, obtained through China, which in itself knocked off those 3M-54s anti-shipping missiles. But the point is, once you get, and I made the video about this specifically, and I did draw the map. Forget about even South Korea, which already is impacted. But once you get something like caliber missiles and Onyx missiles, my God, you suddenly have Yokosuka, you have Okinawa, and those things, they fly, they have incredible high precision, they are extremely accurate. So, and once North Korea gets this, and then, plus Scott Ritter, our common friend, he thinks that, they will also get the proper targeting system for their ballistic missiles, which they have now basically intercontinental ballistic missile capability. And they don't have the capability to properly guide their MIRVs, multiple independent reentry vehicles. Can Russia provide them with that? It's certainly possible. They already have the ballistic missile, so, and eventually they will get it themselves anyway. So, but now when you have the situation with essentially what amounts to allied relations, so it is partnership. It's good partnership. So,
yeah, I wanted to ask about that. It's the first visit in 40 years. Kim looked beside himself with happiness. I think I talked to Pepe the day after it happened, and he was just so stoked for North Korea. Oh, it's Garland, North Korea, and what does this mean? Is Russia going to be the catalyst that sort of brings North Korea out of this isolation? Also, what are the chances for reunification of the peninsula, which China has alluded to, and North Korea has as well?
Well, for Russia, it's a slap in the face of the Western world because she unilaterally broke sanctions on Korea. And that is why Kim was so happy. Their people will be eating better. They will be going out to Russia. They will be earning money. So it's economic impact, which is gigantic. So these people suffered long enough, so, and I can tell you, as I already stated, when people begin to obviously going into this Manichaean, modus operandi that, this is bad, this is good, you wouldn't want to live in North Korea, okay? Well, let's not overplay this. But for Korean people, it means much more economic freedom and much more much better is a standard of living eventually, because Russia restored full-blown economic relations with North Korea. And that will facilitate some processes which are much more even profound than, for example, Russia arming North Korea with latest, missile technologies and means of the ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So it's a multifaceted thing. It's huge.
Kind of wanted to see what you thought about the parallels to the to the Korean War, because Russia was involved in that war as well on the side of North Korea. Now we may be going backwards to a reunification war. But what are the chances? Can you discuss a little bit about what role Russia played in that war, and would it be in Russia's interest to reunify the peninsula?
Well, truth is, we have to be very clear on that. Actually, it was Kim Il-sung who started the war in Korea. It was his, he went three times to Stalin saying, let me do it. And Stalin 2 times said, no, you don't do that. So the third time, Stalin said, you know what, hell with you, just go. So off they go. Soviet Union participated in a major way by supplying North Korea, for example, with equipment. Ranging from T-34-85 to, at that time, more latest versions, whatever there was, the T-55 and whatever the other tanks, I don't remember the old names at that time. My gosh, it was 1950. So, but MiG-15s, and guess what? 64th Corps of the at that time, Soviet Air Force, headed by 3 times hero of the Soviet Union, the toppest allied, if we talk about Western allies and Soviet Union and the Red Army, Ivan Kozhedub. And let me tell you, they gave those sabers the run for their money. Their combat scores are immense there. So United States didn't like actually finding those MiGs when they were flown by the Soviet pilots. Not that the Soviets didn't sustain losses, they obviously did. But that was a major, part of the Soviet Union participating in that war. Today, it's who knows what it is, so North Korea becomes sort of, I don't know, it's a good card to have in your stack, so in your hand, and very good one.
That's what somebody said in the chat. They said that North Korea has a reputation for craziness. They make a perfect proxy because everybody's scared.
Yeah, so it's a good card to have again. And again, as I already stated, economically, Kim was beyond himself for a simple reason. Obviously, the better North Korean population lives, which it will, the better is his hold on power, because it actually legitimizes the power of the Kim's family, which, they are treated in North Korea as almost deities. They like godlike creatures and things of this nature, almost religious things. So for him, it's obviously kind of, he can exhale now.
I mean, them riding around in the car together through the sunroof, I don't think we'll be able to mimic that moment for at least a decade. So let's see what Putin said after the visit, or during the visit, actually.
Обращаю внимание на заявление Соединенных Штатов, других натовских стран о поставках высокоточных систем вооружения большого радиуса действия, самолетов F-16 и другого высокотехнологичного вооружения, техники для нанесения ударов по российской территории. В этой связи Российская Федерация не исключает для себя развитие военно-технического сотрудничества с Корейской Народно-Демократической Республикой в соответствии с подписанным сегодня документом.
Yeah.
A little bit about the document then, because the document, as I understood it, was kind of just a re-signing of a agreement already in place. What does this provide for North Korea? It almost read like an Article 5 out of the NATO book.
It's very similar. Yeah, it is very similar. It doesn't mean that, for example, Russia will rush to fight for the North Korean, God forbid anything happens, or that North Koreans will rush and fight for Russia. No, but it's very close to it, because both sides may ask for military assistance to each other. And as Vladimir Putin just straight to the point. Yeah, we'll give Korea 3M14 and P-800 Onyx. We will provide them with the good air defense systems, and South Korea immediately, within 3 hours, issued statement that it will be ready now to supply non-lethal weapons to Ukraine. ooh, Moscow trembled in its, boots and was ready to sign the capitulation, declaration. But the point is, yeah, why should they leave well and without fear when what they do in, around the world is a complete atrocity if we look attentively what is happening? So yeah, Russia will provide Korea with some good weapon systems, which of course will make sure that the 2,500 kilometers around it is clear from any kind of stupid actions by the, well, primarily US Navy, but also, Japanese Navy should remember anything can fly into Yokosuka, and they will not be able, given the track record of Patriots, to stop it, so it's simple as that.
I also, you pointed it out a little bit, but the South Korean military doesn't belong to South Korea. Only during peacetime does it belong to South Korea. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, Okinawa and most of the actual islands of Japan are military bases for the United States anyway. So them having this proxy is just, it's really just amazing. And again, like the Technicolor dream that they showed North Korea to be, that's the real slap in the face. And Americans were saying it was AI. They're like, it's AI. It's all. I was like, this is so, you guys really are just coping with the idea that your reality is shattered. But then after he leaves North Korea, he goes to Vietnam. So it's like, is Putin just deliberately on a troll trip around Eastern Asia? So what was the point of the visit to Vietnam? Vietnam and Russia also have enjoyed a good relations during the Soviet Union. So what are we looking for here?
Well, Putin rode the wave of the historically very significant involvement of the Soviet Union, obviously, in supporting Vietnam during the Vietnam War and post-Vietnam War. Listen, my Naval Academy held constantly the group of Vietnamese officers, cadets, who have been educated in Baku, for example, for the Vietnamese Navy, which primarily, not exclusively, but primarily consists of Russian hardware, be their corvettes and frigates, or let alone submarine force, which is only Russian made. So it's a big deal. And of course, there is a issue of the Cam Ranh Bay and revitalization of the naval base in Cam Ranh Bay, which, by the way, have been closed early 2000s. But then again, Vladimir Putin at that time took the country, which was still pretty much, in a complete disarray. And actually, Vietnamese were against closing it. So I'm pretty sure once they reopen, which we will know soon enough if that has been achieved, the Cam Ranh Bay bases, oh my gosh, you have the suddenly, Russian Pacific Fleet having a free reign there and being able, and if you look attentively at what is being delivered to Russian Pacific Fleet, it's like conveyor practically, corvette, then frigates, then nuclear submarines, and the 6 other, newest diesel electrics. It's just like being pumped up tremendously. And so once you have this base, that changes also the balance of power in the area. And that kind of adds stability. I think so. China should be happy. But then again, China and Vietnam is a whole other story. So, and do not forget, Vietnam still has a very strong pro-Western faction. They are very much involved with the United States. So it's not all this situation when literally Soviet Union stood firmly behind Vietnam. But those ties evidently have been revitalized, And don't forget, there is all these BRICS, and everybody wants to be a BRICS now, and turn on your microphone.
I'm muted, but that was the next question. BRICS, we have Malaysia and Indonesia both expressing interest. I predicted that this will be a very Asia-heavy class, as last year was a very Middle East-heavy. So what are you thinking for this year? And also, I asked Pepe, so I'll ask you too, just for fun, what is the likelihood, or can North Korea join BRICS? And that would probably be the ultimate Putin troll ever.
Oh, there's no doubt that essentially at some point of time, North Korea will be in BRICS. But yeah, you have those heavyweights, Asian, hugely important countries. Indonesia, this is the largest Muslim country in the world, actually. 200 plus million population of primarily Muslims. It's much larger than any Arab country, for example, and it's larger in population than even Pakistan. So, but Indonesia and its emerging economy, so Malaysia, we know what it is. Thailand wants now on the piece of the pie. So, yeah, the question now is how to measure itself, because so many now are ready to jump into BRICS, and you cannot allow it to become this, bloated organization again. You need to. I agree we spoke about this with Scott and Garland a few days ago, that you need to line up institutions, before all this happens. But yes, BRICS is gigantically Asia heavy. And what is most important, economically, it's a monster already as we speak. So it's militarily, well, Russia is in charge of the provision of the military security for the BRICS. So, and maybe at some point of time, we'll see Turkey also. I probably will.
We're seeing hotspots pop up where BRICS, or either new BRICS members or BRICS hopefuls are coming in. So let's name the three that I've seen, which is the Armenia-Azerbaijan one, the Serbia one, and then we have another smaller, not so hot one in Venezuela. Which one do you think is the most serious, that it deserves our attention right now, that's where the breaking point really could be?
Neither of them are breaking points, honestly. So Armenia in itself is just a piece of land. There are more Armenians living in Russia than they live in, in Armenia. And it's just, Azerbaijan is critical, obviously, because of the north-south corridor. And now they have this part of the railway finished. So you will be able to move, already happening actually, cargoes from Murmansk to Bandar Abbas, on the shore of the Indian Ocean in Iran, all through Azerbaijan and things like that. So it's a huge deal. So, and when you look at this, oh my God, you're looking at the economic potential. It dwarfs, Western world. I mean, really dwarfs, especially when you consider what those numbers, most of them fake, of the capitalization, all those finances. Suddenly even World Bank comes out and says, oh yeah, Russia has been, fourth world economy since 2021. Yeah. So, didn't I tell you about this like 10 years ago? So, and, people kind of today, I believe, in Wall Street Journal, oh, you don't need the article, literally the title. As it turned out, West learned that capitalization doesn't matter in the war. Only real industry matters. That's the title in Wall Street Journal. Well, how about dissolving all those economic departments in all those Ivy League? Because what you have there, the whiteboard professors in nothing, and so they got it. So suddenly, and when I tell people, they cannot even comprehend this, that Russia alone produces more steel and iron than the United States. And Russia produces 7 times more aluminum than the United States. So people sometimes have no grasp of those numbers, and then they say, how can they outproduce NATO by like several times combined, in every single, type of munition, including extremely high cost, high precision, weapons, smart munitions and things like that. Well, because Russia has economy, real one. What is the capitalization of some Russian, plant which produces electronics? Zero probably, So guess what? This electronics is, and in those missiles and combat aircraft, and it's in terms of volume, it basically competes with such giants as Raytheon. Well, Raytheon won't be able to produce anything on time anyway. So
no, never. I as a person that used to wait for parts from Raytheon, your guys are going to be waiting a good 10 years for just ball bearings. So good luck to you guys. I mentioned Serbia, and I want to mention it again because they are BRICS hopeful. They are getting closer to Iran and the militarized border. Obviously, you were around for the 90s wars. Russia was in a position where she could not get involved, really. What is Russia's obligation to Serbia this go around? I'm seeing a lot of weird things happening. Bosnia-Herzegovina is dissolving for all intents and purposes right now. And then we had some poking and prodding and then kind of lying about Serbia sending, they're trying to get the Muslims surrounding Serbia to get upset. They're lying and saying Serbia sent weapons to Israel. They're pushing Serbia at the border. Serbia has Iranian drones. What are we thinking here? And what would be Russia's foreign policy in that theater?
You know what? Look at Serbia's political top and their president and their prime minister. It's all good old European values thing. They declared that they want to be in Europe. So I mean, what can Russia do about it? Nothing. So it's their choice. They consistently voted. They surrendered their heroes. They gave up on their heroes, from Ratko Mladic, to Radovan Karadzic and all that. They gave up after the war. Instead of being pissed on NATO, they elected the uber pro-Western corrupt politician who was eventually assassinated. But they continue to elect those people non-stop. So I mean, what should Russia think? If people consistently go out and elect globalists, that's pretty much the limit of Russian capabilities there. What can you say? Serbs have to decide themselves what they want to do.
That's true. The Serbs do need to be more assertive about what they really want from their government. Now is the time. Absolutely. Republika Srpska is making moves, so we'll just wait for the Serbs to catch up. Thank you, Ted Maya, for your super chat. I hope I said your name right. He is asking, Russia stated that the U.S. is now a conflicting party in Ukraine. Since Ukraine and Russia are officially not at war, what implication does that statement even imply?
Well, I mean, it's political hustle around all that. I don't know how much, Cy-Hirsch information about allegedly, classified or secret behind the stage communications and negotiations actually about the allowing United States to crawl out of the situation between Washington and Moscow. True. I don't know. Maybe there is certainly some, rumors circulating. But, well, what can I say? Political statements, to kind of political maneuvering to make one's position, more assertive, if you wish. But in the end, everything is decided on the battlefield. And whatever the possible, items, so to speak, has been negotiated between Russians and Americans. Right now, it doesn't matter. After Sevastopol, come on, they will be hunted down specifically, those people. They will be hunted down and killed. I'm talking about American personnel.
Okay. All right, disavow. Anyway, so before I let you go, final thoughts on Ukraine. Will we see a Russian summer offensive? And then your final wrap up.
Well, why do you need offensive?
Well,
that's the problem. Well, first, offensive is such a broad term because I don't want to go now into the military definitions, But what is happening right now, if you look at the daily losses of Ukraine, they amount to each day one brigade being written off from the order of battle of the armed forces of Ukraine. Hence your desperation on the part of West. They know where it all came down to. And so, well, we know that they demand total mobilization. They demand children. They demand Hitler Youth. They demand Volkssturm, which already is much of the armed forces of Ukraine is a Volkssturm. It is basically men 65 years even and older. Russians sit there. Russia still moves every day. They're still moving, But even Vladimir Putin went out and correctly stated, why do we need Kharkov? Why? I mean, why do you need, to kill 10,000 of Russian soldiers taking the city, which is primarily doesn't want Russians there to start with, Exactly. So it has been Ukrainized to the point they are brainwashed. There are some people who are waiting for Russians to come. But I mean, why do you need to take on your balance? It's like, you're sitting in your nice home, clean, beautiful, with your family. Somebody knocks on the door, some pauper, alcoholic and drug addict, and says, hey, let me live in your house, Let me drive your cars. Let me, sleep in your bed. And no. So listen, even Donbas republics, Lugansk and Donetsk, for the last 10 years, Russia essentially was helping to run them, and now she's running it. You still have to deal with these remnants of the Ukrainian mentality, corruption, and things like that. Why do you need to take them? it's enough for Ukraine to kill itself at the wall. Basically, the whole generations of the Ukrainian men, future possible mobilization potential for the West have been killed. So that's the demilitarization. Ukraine doesn't have industry anymore. Eventually, it's going to be there. Well, it's sort of like Morgenthau plan. Whatever will be left of Ukraine will be agricultural country, neutral, with only police force, and that's it. And it will be broken into confederation with future entities, such as, for example, Nikolaev and Odessa regions, being able to vote themselves back to Russia, maybe in 5 years. So why do you need to go exactly and kill your personnel when they come to you and you kill them in amounts which, for example, Pentagon has no reference point? They never encountered anything like this, including in World War II. So there you go.
Well, you said it. That's the end. Thank you so much, Andrei. I will not make you late for your next interview. Guys, please make sure you follow Andrei on YouTube. It's probably one of the best channels on YouTube, and Andrei's blog spot. But we will put both links in the description, and we will see you tomorrow with Senator Black to talk about the Philippines, North Korea, and all things Asia. Thank you so much, Andrei. It's always a pleasure. We will have
My pleasure.
We always get the best clips from Andrei. You have a good rest of your week.
You too. Bye-bye. Talk to you later.